As a government contractor, I've had a lot of different jobs. One of the reasons why I came out to the East Coast from the Pacific Northwest was to get away from a city that has for its demographics a significantly lower percentage of African Americans than that of the national average. My family, some of which back on the West Coast, are totally clueless. They have no idea what's going on with regard to the U.S. government and how things work on the East Coast of the United States. They think they do, but they don't. I'm going to give you an example. One of my government contracts, aside from having worked for a government agency here in Fairfax County, Virginia, as well as having been a test subject for the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in Silver Spring, whereby I lived on the military base for 13 days, I was a test subject at the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Here's the check. For this particular experiment, they paid me $260. Now, what you can see here is that this is a legitimate document, as you can clearly see the information. It's legit. It's non-negotiable. This is from the U.S. government. The U.S. government paid me in check form, and this is the information from the scientific experiment of which I was a part. Now, what you should know about the National Institute of Health, if you don't already know, is that you can't participate in these programs unless you've been vetted by psychologists, psychiatrists, clinical practitioners, people who are highly educated, have MDs, PhDs, principal investigators, subordinate investigators, people in the government. They have a vetting process. Generally speaking, they don't make mistakes. They have a vetting process. You undergo an entire battery of psychological tests. Now, I've been a part of that particular test, as well as I was living on a military base for 13 days. They paid me in cash. Well, check form. But I lived on the military base in Silver Spring, in Maryland, the state of Maryland, for 13 days in a laboratory. That process was extensive as well, in terms of psychological testing, evaluation, IQ tests, and so on and so forth. My parents were in the military. They had excellent insurance. And I was constantly undergoing psychological evaluations, mental health evaluations. I've never had a mental health issue. I have been screened umpteen times by clinical, professionals. When I came out here, at some point I had a job working a few blocks from the White House in Washington, D.C. I won't go into the nature of that particular job or which agency I was a government contractor for and with, how much I was paid, or again, the nature of that particular job. But it involved secret things, and there are a lot of people in this region who work in secret areas. That's what we do. That's what this part of the country is about. You live in Hollywood, the market there is for media. Out here, it's government. Your neighbors are government agents, government personnel, officers of some agency, department, organization, what have you. So, the point is, my clueless family back on the West Coast is just that. Has no clue whatsoever. I have this family member who thinks that I'm crazy. Doesn't understand the process. Just keeps running his mouth, going around telling people all these things. He doesn't understand you can't be in these programs and be crazy. Now, he'll tell you that I'm crazy. He'll tell you that the world is watching me and that I'm crazy. I'm a crazy person. I'm just crazed. I'm delusional. That's not what these PhDs seem to believe. That's why I've been in a multitude of these programs. He hasn't been in any of these programs. He's not a PhD. He's not an MD. He's not a psychiatrist. He's not a psychologist. And certainly they could see through his bullshit. They vetted me. They screened me countless times, multiple occasions over the years. And I've been in these programs myself for years. I get paid. I'm a government contractor. I make money. It comes from the U.S. government. Like I said, I lived at WRAIR, the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, for 13 days on the U.S. military base there in Silver Spring. I lived there at WRAIR, Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in Silver Spring, Maryland, for 13 days on the military base. Do you think that they would let someone do this if he or she were unstable? I assure you, this person is running around telling you perhaps these things about me. This person doesn't know. Here it is. This is government money. This is government money. Okay? This is paycheck. I'm not crazy. I don't need to see a psychiatrist. I don't need to see a psychologist. They know that. That's why I've had government contracts. This person has never had government contracts. This person doesn't know, doesn't have a clue. But he'd have you believe that I'm crazy. You know? He'd have you believe that I've never held any of these positions. He has no idea. The fuck is he to be telling people this shit? Is he a psychologist? Is he a psychiatrist? Is he degreed in these areas? No. Absolutely not. What a fucking disrespectful man this person is. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any mental illnesses. You know, I'd love to have, you know, this fool know the truth. But, you know, I'm happy and satisfied knowing that there is a handful of people in the U.S. government who know what I've done and my background and, you know, the things that I've been part of. And he can run around and think all these things, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. I'm not going to tell him who I work for. It doesn't matter, because there are people who monitor things. There are people on the internet. They see things. There are people who know me. I have friends on these social networks. He doesn't know who they are. And they watch. And I've never revealed who I've worked for to the public. I've never told them. This person certainly doesn't need to know. It's funny to me that he thinks he is this voice of reason and he can go around and tell people all this shit about me. You know? So, at any rate, I just thought I'd put it out there because he, you know, had this mission to go around and tell people, you know, that I'm delusional and that I've just made all this up and it's all a fantasy and it's just this imaginary pretend world that I have in my mind. This dude's a punk, man. If he only knew, but you know what? He doesn't. He doesn't. And if someone were to come and tell him, hey, look, man, your cousin, he really did these things that he's talking about. He did, dude. Who the fuck are you, man? Who do you think you are? You PhD? You a psychiatrist? You a psychologist? Nah, you're not, dude. You're just on the internet just being a hater, man. You have no respect for your cousin, man. You have no respect. You're telling people, man, in you know, in his peer group, back on the other coast, that he's fucking crazy, that he hasn't been part of these, you know, all he told you was that he had a government job. He didn't tell you who he worked for. And you're like, nah, my cousin's delusional. He could never have a government job. You know, even if he knew, even if they told him, hey, man, you know, you've been a fool for all these years, man, telling these people this shit, which is not true. And they showed him, you know, hey, look, man, this is what you got. This is what your cousin really has done. You know what he'd do? He'd just find something else and be like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna try to defame him in some other way. Hey, man, fuck you, dude. Straight up.